3. That's a magic number. Yes, it is. It's the magic number.
What does it all mean?
Hello and welcome to the second series of Flintoff, Savage and the Ping Pong Guy. That's me, Matthew Syed. Some meaty topics to get stuck into today, including what sporting moments we've loved and hated over the summer, what are the worst sporting phrases, and do managers deserve to be given more time? Remember, you can use the hashtag FredSavSide to suggest future topics you'd like to hear us talk about. But before getting going, let's do what we usually do, which is what have we been up to over the entire summer?
Well, first and foremost, nice to be back. We had a little moment on BBC Breakfast today, didn't we? Where you had the most horrendous sweat patches under your arms and your blue shirt.
I know, what were you thinking?
Man.
You're going on live TV, you looked a bit hot before you go on, and you've got a light blue shirt on, you've got your arm on the back of the couch. Oh, it was damp, wasn't it?
I tell you, I feel really embarrassed because I rushed down from the hotel to get here on time for the call time for BBC Breakfast. I hadn't seen you guys over the summer. And I give Rob a big hug, give the producer Mike a hug, Stan, Fred. And the first thing you two start talking about are my trousers. You say they're too flat.
It was like MC Hammer. Wasn't it?
And I could feel myself breaking into a sweat. And you know when you just, your core body temperature's gone sky high, but I didn't realise there were any sweat patches. Why didn't you tell me in the studio?
Oh, I couldn't leave it. It's one of them where I could not let you tell you that. It was, get him on there.
So, yeah, summer, went on holiday.
You've been growing your hair as well, haven't you, this summer?
Tell you what, Heseltine. That is Heseltine.
Get your own jokes, Matthew. So, yeah, a nice summer. Went to a lovely island for a holiday.
Which one? Isle of Man? Jersey,
Guernsey. Barbados. Barbados. Beautiful,
right.
beautiful.
Barbados,
and
wow.
Then
did you stay in the Sandy Lane Hotel?
No,
Where did you stay?
Too expensive. What?
Whose villa did you stay in?
What?
Whose villa did you stay in?
Not yours. I think you just sold yours.
Times are hard.
Stayed in the villa, though, did you?
Yeah, nice villa. Had a couple of barbecues. Really nice. Then I went to Mykonos with my wife. Just met my wife for 4 nights. And it's really nice. You know, the funny thing is, when you've got kids and you go on holiday with the kids and then you go away for 4 days with your wife, it's amazing because you rekindle.
Has my wife told you to say this?
No, but you rekindle.
Because I'm under pressure at home to do exactly this.
You know, you have a laugh. You remember why you fell in love with them. You mean... And
you're killing me, Rob. You're killing me.
You do. It's like you had such a great time.
I agree with you completely.
I really fancy my wife. I really
fancy
fancy her. It's a bizarre thing to say.
It's not a bizarre thing to say. Why is it a bizarre thing to say?
I'll tell you what, though.
It's more bizarre if you said you didn't.
She's 40.
It's a lovely... Okay, honestly, I think that's a lovely thing to say. The amount of people that get married and then that kind of the relationship can sometimes...
43 years, I really fancy... When I look at her, I think she's got better.
Why would you say that?
She's got better with age.
Yeah.
She's really fit. And when you look at her... She is. I do really...
Have you had a good night, you?
No.
Did you have a good night last night?
I don't know. So, yeah, anyway. So, I love my wife.
No, that's fantastic.
Thanks. Yeah.
My wife's still waiting for a honeymoon. We've only been married 12 years. No, I've not been away.
You didn't?
I've not been away. No, I've not had honeymoon. I've not had holiday this year. I'm not whinging. I'm quite happy.
You've been working though, haven't you?
I've been working, and you know what? I've watched a lot of motor cricket.
All right.
My boys just play all the time with the club, with Lancashire.
Yep.
So I had 10 days in Taunton. 10 days in Taunton. What a place that is.
And you were on
10 days.
And you done your commentary debut.
Oh,
on
yeah.
TV.
How did that go?
I did T20 commentary.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, I say. Yeah. You know what? I've never wanted to do it, but Rob Key, one of my great friends, does it. Bumble, David Lloyd. And I just had a laugh, to be honest. Finals day was brilliant, even though I fell over a speaker singing Elvis to the crowd.
That was funny. Very, very funny.
I tell you what, the recovery was unbelievable.
I just tried to start it out.
Yeah.
The backward roll and straight back. I lost my wig, but carried on singing. And then last week, a very, very good friend of mine took me to Ibiza last week for 3 days.
Went to Ibiza. And Stanley, we all went. It was brilliant. Brilliant.
Why did Matthew not get invited?
Yeah, where was my invitation?
Oh, I don't think you were quite ready for Ibiza yet.
You're worried about the flares.
Bristol Library, I think you're like. I was going to the library somewhere. But it was funny. We were in the airport early in the morning, and a few photos, and then this lady, or was it a gentleman, shouting?
Obviously a looker.
What? I can't remember. It was a man or a woman shouting. We were having photos. Andy, can I have a photo, please? Andy, we've never heard him getting called Andy before. Andy, It was hilarious.
And what about the... Go on, sorry.
But so we went to Ibiza. We went to this boot camp we've been to before. They train you. And last time we went was a real rigid training programme. This one was a little bit more relaxed, where we trained, but we had one day out, didn't we? Because it's my 40th in December. We had an afternoon out. We went to this place called Ocean Beach Club.
Uh-huh.
And you turn up and you realise you're old, aren't you?
Oh.
You walked in, and
yeah.
Robbie's been on a diet for 3 weeks because he did a calendar shoot for the loose women. So he thinks he's in Nick. He's got his shorts on. It looks like he's just got off his yacht. He's got his ponytail in, his hair gel back. He's got these beautiful tailored shorts. He's got his shirt unbuttoned. But when you went in and had a look round, I was surprised you took your shirt off because there was abs everywhere. Yeah. It's like all the gym lads are in there, girls. But we got...
Did they have those kind of loungers and the big beach beds and ice buckets?
But we got given, the owner's a fella called Tony, who I knew from down south, and he gave us his little area. So we cut off from everyone. Because it's packed. I'm trying to keep a low profile. I don't drink. It's a party. It's history. There's music going off. People asking for photographs. So I'm thinking, just keep a low profile. Just sit in the corner, talk to my mates. I'm enjoying it. Next minute, all of a sudden, I can see there's about 12 bikini-clad girls holding cards above their heads like ring girls in the boxing. These like 4-foot cards, one with each letter of my name on, saying Freddie 40, all coming towards us. I'm thinking, no, I don't want a picture of it. This is mail online. This, I just want a day out. And then they come over, and then by this stage, 2,000 people in the beach club had turned around and started singing. But how good a day was it? We stayed till 8 o'clock. And then went back to the villa.
And I had karaoke.
Oh, you should have seen what he organised at the villa. He had a dinner set out by the pool. Fish fingers, chips and beans, my favourite food, and bread. He had a massive screen put up for karaoke. Yeah. So we had just had a night with the lads, friends,
brilliant it was.
Singing karaoke. I mean, that's what he did, my mate.
What an incredibly lovely thing to do.
I didn't even know I was going to Ibiza.
To be fair, his wife, I phoned Rachel and said, what can I do? And Rachel was brilliant. Fish fingers, chips and beans was their wedding dinner.
Yeah.
No, got married.
Really?
That was his dinner, yeah.
So my wife had pizza and chips at our wedding.
Yeah,
really?
I thought you want.
Yeah.
Idea.
Really?
It was an amazing trip. Brilliant trip.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest with you, I never thought I'd be going to Ibiza for my 40th and be stone cold sober and enjoy it.
That's fantastic.
What did you do?
And you don't drink anymore at all.
Nearly 3 years now.
And but you still have fun. You have a great laugh.
But
there was one.
That's a marvelous
I had 10 Red
thing.
Bulls.
There was one bit. There was one bit, and I got very defensive because the guys. There was this bottle of vodka, and the guys were pouring the vodka Red Bull, and it was like in a big like glass. They call them like a fish,
like little goldfish balls, aren't they?
And then I was turned round, and he had this. Look, which I thought was a vodka and Red Bull. I went, oi! What are you doing? And he went, it's just Red Bull, just Red Bull. What did you do?
So I've got I've got a book deadline at the end of this year. So I took a month in Oxford, spent most of it in the library, researching the book. But to be honest, I did, because the pressure is on to deliver this manuscript by the end of the year, I felt under pressure and I struggled to get many words written. So I'm really still under the cosh.
Which one's this about?
This is the one about teamwork.
Oh, right.
The one where I thought the initial title might be How Teams Win, and you said it was the most boring title for a book. But I did go with the family, long weekend. It wasn't Barbados, wasn't Ibiza, wasn't Mykonos, Centre Parks in Woburn.
Oh,
got to tell you, it was good.
You get a bike, don't you? You got to cycle everywhere.
Yeah,
it's expensive though, because everything's on top, isn't it? It's expensive. Yeah. My cousin goes, pays a fortune.
Yeah, but I tell you what, the kids, 3 and 5 now,
loved it.
They loved it. The pool, the rapids outside, the wave machine. There's also badminton, tennis.
Oh, it sounds a great oldie, this, man.
There's table.
Come on, I'll take you away. Come on, Andrew, get your shuttlecock out. Well,
okay. That was it. Okay, wow. First topic. Now, we haven't been together since the end of June. So what are the things that you've loved and hated in sport over the summer? Freddie, this is your topic.
Yeah, we've not been here over it, and there's a lot of things happened in the world of sport in various sports. And I want to find out what you've enjoyed, what you've not enjoyed. And I'll kick it off. There was one thing for me in the sporting summer, it was only a few weeks ago, which annoyed me. It was the Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather fight.
Yep.
It annoyed me on a few levels because they do this press tour and they're going up and down and you're just shouting at each other. And to be honest with you, making knobs of themselves, aren't they?
Yep.
And they're shouting in front of all these people. And Conor McGregor's saying, He can't beat me, he can't beat me, in that accent. And he's just talking it up, saying he's never had a boxing bout in his life. He's saying it's going well, I can beat him, I can do all this. And everyone bought into it. Everyone's thinking, yeah, maybe he can. He's talking it up. Yeah. And then I, like everyone else, I don't agree with paying for fights. I don't agree with box office. Because if you've got a Manchester derby in football or the Ashes in cricket, you don't pay anymore. Yeah. Why do we do it for boxing? But I got sucked in like everyone else. Set me alarm for 4 o'clock in the morning, paid me 20 quid. And watched Floyd Mayweather have a sparring session. Yeah. And he couldn't do it. He was out of his depth. And then afterwards, everyone's saying, oh, well, you know, he's an MMA fighter fighting the world's best boxer. Didn't he do well? Well, no, because that's not how the fight was built. The fight was built that he can beat him. Yeah. And I thought it was dreadful.
I agree with that 100%. And it shows that sport, there's a lot of technical skill that takes years to master the craft, where you begin to understand the geometry of the punching and boxing, how you slip a punch. I mean, you did box,
But that's the thing. I'll get hammered now because I boxed, and they'll say about the sports. However, I've done it already, an early one. I wasn't building myself up to win a belt. I wasn't saying I'm going to be this, that, and the other. I'm going to have a go at doing it. Yeah. And then afterwards, I must admit, Conor McGregor must have been a little bit embarrassed. In the interview afterwards, he looked a bit sheepish from coming on in fur coats for press conferences and shouting and screaming, I'm going to do this, that and the other. And I know his followers will probably hammer me now, but even they've got to be disappointed. You pay all that money to go to Vegas, take the crowd, everyone's turning up. And Floyd Mayweather would have had harder sparring sessions. Yep. I thought he dragged the fight out.
Yeah, he did.
I thought he could have ended it at any point. Yep. But he thought, you know what, I'll just have a bit here and then take it a bit deeper for the crowd.
I was surprised. You know, I done the same as Fred. I watched it. I loved all the build-up. And when I put it on, and I was surprised for an elite athlete. Just, I can't remember what round it was, but I looked at him on the chair. He looked absolutely shattered early on. And for an elite athlete, I was surprised, because when I see him in the MMA, you know, what is it, 5 minute? Is it 3 5-minute rounds?
5 5s in a championship fight.
Five
for
5-minute rounds. So in boxing, it's obviously, if it went the distance, 12 3-minute rounds. So what was it, 11 minutes difference if it goes the distance? And I was surprised. I can't remember which round it was, but I looked at Conor McGregor in his corner. He looked absolutely shattered, and it was, you know, I was disappointed. Yeah, I was disappointed.
But you can't fault the way to sell a fight, the way in which he sold a fight, and he probably pinches himself. He probably earned $100 million, and I'm not begrudging him that one bit or whatsoever. Take it, mate, have it, enjoy it. But as a spectacle, I thought it was dreadful.
So McGregor actually fought for 25 minutes and 1 second, which is a tad over what he would fight for in an MMA fight. So
did you watch it?
Yeah.
What did you think?
I thought that it panned out in much the way that you described, that Mayweather was far better, he had better technical understanding, because he was doing his activity. It takes years to learn the craft of any sport. You know, give you one quick example. In table tennis, I've got very fast reactions. And I thought that if I tried to return a serve from Michael Stieck and Boris Becker, I once had a celebrity game with them at the Harbour Club in Chelsea.
Who played?
I thought I'd be able to return the serve, right?
The Harbour Club. You're posh, aren't you?
You played in the celebrity. So was it Boris Becker against Michael Stieck? And what did you do?
I was there as a journalist. I was covering the celebrity.
Oh, you didn't play then?
But I thought I'd get the serve back, because in table tennis you only have about 0.25 of a second return a smash. But in tennis you have half a second, so double the amount of time. But of course, in table tennis, you read the opponent. You know where they're going to hit the ball because you kind of understand the pattern and you're already moving in the direction of the ball before it's been struck. In tennis, I didn't understand any of the intricacies of the sport, so I didn't move a muscle before the ball had gone past my ear. So when McGregor, from his art of MMA, goes into boxing, he's got absolutely no chance. The thing that amazed me was the demand for the tickets, for the pay-per-view, for the box office.
It wasn't sold out, though, was it?
Oh, but the amount of money they made. It's one of the richest sporting events in the history of the world.
I don't begrudge the money one bit. Right. I thought he did an amazing job of selling out a fight.
He did.
I thought it was not brilliant, but he sold a fight. He's made an absolute fortune. Yeah. But back it up. Right. Back it up. Don't go out there and say all these things.
Do you think that there might be, in sport, this new kind of approach of coming up with unusual high-profile matches, like between, in the 1930s, Jesse Owens ran against a racehorse. It was a big deal. Michael Phelps swimming against a shark. The fact that people, for me, this wasn't sport. This was entertainment, right?
What could Freddie do?
What
could you do?
I boxed.
What could you do?
I don't know. There was a rugby player, a South African lad, ran against a leopard.
Yeah.
What could you do?
What could I do? That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Perhaps you can put out there to the
Against
listeners.
an animal?
Yeah.
What?
Against an animal?
Me?
Yeah, what sort of animal?
An Afghan hound?
Well, a lookalike competition.
Oh, come on.
Don't you
think? Yeah.
I could run against an Afghan hound on a greyhound track.
We could do that on the last podcast of the series. It could be one of the high points.
Let's ask the listeners, obviously, who are listening.
Hashtag Fred Sav Syed.
What could I compete against like that, and what could Freddie, and what could you?
You could take on an aardvark at sucking up ants. Through that big oot of yours, couldn't you? I reckon you've got it covered.
So you started being horrible again.
What?
First bat.
I'm trying to do something which you'd be good at.
We're first bat now, and you're hammering me.
Fred, didn't you ever go at baseball at some
I've tried baseball.
What was that like?
It was all right till they started swinging it.
Yeah, right.
Because the problem was it's a similar speed. If you look at the speeds of baseball, mid-90s, mid-80s, but because it doesn't bounce, it changes everything. And the swing's completely different. So you think that, I'll be all right at this, I can hit it. Probably in the way in which you thought with tennis.
Yeah.
And when they were doing it just straight and fast, it's easy. But when they started dipping them and blowing curveballs, I couldn't do it.
Yes.
I got beat by Jamie Redknapp.
You weren't comparing you against Michael Steek to Mayweather and Conor McGregor, were you?
Yeah.
Seriously? Oh,
Well,
wow.
I wasn't comparing my ability to either of those guys, but just the fact that the skills that you learn in sport are not transferable to other sports. They're very different. Like Freddie was saying, between baseball and cricket, between tennis and table tennis, they look the same. But the skills that you have to inculcate over thousands of hours are completely... There was no way Mayweather was ever going to
I played in rugby
struggle
aid.
with...
I played in rugby aid, and I was the kicker.
Uh-huh.
And I got 4 out of 5.
Actually, that's one transferability, because Beckham is brilliant, isn't he, when he does conversions?
Stop mentioning
no.
it. It's Fergie.
Ferguson's coming up later.
Stop
believe me.
mentioning him. Federer.
Hey, talking of which, Sav, high points of the summer sport.
High points.
Because you liked Federer at Wimbledon, right?
Yeah, I did. The Lions Tour.
Yeah.
Lions Tour. I thought...
They drew.
What?
They drew.
Yeah, but New Zealand...
I don't care, they
What?
drew. I'm sorry, I can't. We spoke about
Go,
this.
dog, go home.
We spoke about
yeah.
this in our very first podcast, celebrating mediocrity. I don't like it. If you win, celebrate. You drew. It's not a high point. How's it a high point? We're a full nation. It's the Lions. It's not England. It's not Wales.
Yeah.
Not Scotland. It's Britain. Britain
the way against a tiny country.
Against one country with 3 people.
Listen, I thought the Lions, after losing the first test, and then Warren Gatlin, I think he got a bit of stick in the press, and then when they won the second test, he went into his press conference with a big red nose on it, because I think he was called a clown, I might be wrong, and I really liked that. I thought, fair play to what?
Why go into a press conference with a big red nose on if you've not won?
Well, they did. They won that second test.
Yeah, but they haven't won the series.
Yeah, but he had the third one to come, and they drew it. They didn't lose.
Well, that's the wrong approach. What do you mean they didn't lose? You don't go out into a game or a sport not to lose. You go to win. You don't put red noses on your face till you've won. I'm sorry, I can't get my head around this.
Anyway, I like that.
Hang on a minute.
I like the Lions.
How many people are in New Zealand?
The population of New Zealand, I would have guessed
Just
about
rough
3 million.
3 million.
It's the All
How many
Blacks.
people are in London?
Yeah, 10.
It's the All
There's more in,
Blacks.
how many in Manchester?
It's not far off the population of New Zealand.
And he's got a red nose on saying, did we do well? No, we didn't.
They've just beat South Africa 57-0, I think it was, at the weekend. The All
Put your
Blacks.
nose on. The All Blacks.
But
Did they?
57-0 against the Springbok. 57.
4.6 million, actually, population of New Zealand.
Who told you that?
4.6 million.
So I think for the Lions to go there and get a draw, I think they've not won since 1971, I think. But they only play them every 12 years, don't they?
Yeah.
Because they go to Australia, South Africa, and New Zealand. So it's every 12 years, a test every 4 years.
I'm sorry. I can't.
So the Lions get the draw, you're not having it?
No.
Wow.
here's one
you're
for you.
4 countries. 4 countries against one little one.
Fash.
Here's one for you. Jordan Spieth at the Open.
Yeah.
13th hole. He drives off, goes way over to the right.
I
Takes
saw
20
this.
minutes. to find the ball, find his line over to the 13th. Mentally, he's been struggling throughout the round. He's picked up a couple of bogeys. He's not doing terribly well. He's looking uncomfortable. He's under pressure. People are questioning his mindset because he fell apart at the Masters last year. Then he regroups. He manages, I think, to...
You're very excited, Matthew, about that, aren't you?
I thought it was mentally, I thought it was the toughest example of sporting prowess at any time through the summer. I think he eagled the 15th. He was way ahead by the 17th and 18th. I thought mentally, Fred, that was impressive.
Yeah, but as someone who plays golf from them sorts of positions anyway, I didn't think he was that good. What's the big deal? I always play me second out the rough. Get on with it, Jordan. No.
Where are you
Mental
both?
toughness. Oh, get a grip.
Where are you both on? I watched the World Championships. A couple of talking points. Obviously, Usain Bolt, possibly the greatest athlete ever, pulled his hamstring in the relay, but in the 100 metres, Gatlin winning.
What, the coach at Lions? He's getting about. Did he have a red nose on? He's getting about this. Had he beat it? Oh, I get him here. He didn't say he beat Usain Bolt. You can put a wig on as well as your red nose if you're winning. I take it back, Gatlin.
So, obviously, Warren Gatlin. No, Justin Gatlin.
What are you on about? Who is this fella?
Son!
Oh, God. So, Justin Gatlin, obviously, banned twice, won the 100 metres. Yeah. Because he's in it, you have to accept it now.
Yep.
I believe if you take drugs and are found guilty, you should never compete in that sport again. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
I think, but he was in it, so therefore, by him winning it, you have to accept it. You know, it's okay saying it when he's won it.
I agree.
I remember, was it Steve Cram's great commentary in the previous championships? I don't know if it was the Olympics or the World Championship when Bolt won.
Yeah.
And it was a great commentary. He said, you just saved the sport or something. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do.
I might be wrong, but it was a great commentary from Steve Cram. And then this time, when he's won, you've got to get on with it. He's competing. He served his ban. I agree. He should never have competed again. Once he's been found guilty, that's it. But because he's in it, you got to get on with it.
Do you know, I think that commentary was the last World Championships, the Cram commentary. It was a great bit of commentary. I agree with you completely that if you're a drugs cheat, there should be a lifetime ban with one proviso. If you're prepared to tell the authorities, the people who gave you the drugs, the coaches who are involved, so that you can get real intelligence.
Well, they should be allowed to run.
Well, I think.
That's giving you a get out. That's like saying, well, I'll take him, but you know what? I'll just tell everyone who it was, and I'll be back again.
I'm surprised you there.
But think about the amount of information you could get about all of the other people who are doing it, because there's a lot of people who are doing it who don't get caught, and then there are innocent athletes who never get the chance to win.
So if I raced you and you'd taken drugs, but then say, I'll tell you what. He gave me X, Y, and Z, and then you beat me in a race and won the gold.
No, I think there should be a ban. I think there should be a lifetime ban unless you're prepared to tell the authorities everything about the infrastructure of doping that you leverage.
So then you should be allowed to run.
I think you should then have only maybe 3 years, something like that, a shorter. But we can disagree about that. But with Gatlin, uncomfortable about him racing. But I agree with you completely. The rules entitled him to race. And I also found I'm not sure I felt it was right to say that Bolt has saved the sport by winning. Because how often, I'm not saying Bolt is dirty, I admire him, he's a brilliant athlete, I've enjoyed the way that he races and his personality. But how many times have we celebrated athletes and a few years down the line, it's turned out that they were doping? You never really know.
Yeah, that's harsh, that, isn't it? It's harsh. I understand your suspicions and it's happened before, but it's harsh.
Yeah.
But the one thing about Gatlin, or whoever he was it Gatlin, isn't it?
Yeah,
Justin Gatlin. Was before the race, everyone thinks Usain Bolt's turning up, it's his parade, he's just going to win.
Yeah.
So Gatlin was never mentioned. Nobody's saying Gatlin shouldn't be here, he's a jug sheet, he's this, that and the other. And when he spoilt the party, then everyone gets on their high horse, all the pundits and everyone are banging on about it, the crowd are booing. But if you're going to be like that, out him before the race. Don't do it afterwards because he's ruined Usain's party.
And you guys are right. You shouldn't be suspicious about Bolt because there's no proof against him. You should celebrate an athlete like that. But don't you sometimes feel with a sport, particularly athletics? I followed it a lot in my teens. And then these heroes who turned out to be... It does affect the way you observe it. Don't you think? A bit sort of just takes the edge off it, slightly.
The one thing that confuses me about athletics is how they come up with them.
What do you mean?
Pole vault. Who come up with that? I found myself watching a pole vault.
Steeplechase.
Steeplechase, I was going to say, yeah, they run round. Hammer throw, discus, shot put.
My mum used to do shot put at school.
Did she?
Yeah, Val.
Was she good?
Yeah, I think she was.
Did she do the pivot backwards and forwards, or did she twirl around before letting the shot go?
I don't know, but all I know she did shot put at school.
What's the point of the pole vault? What's the point?
Yeah, but I
Do you know what it's like?
Sergei Bubka.
Sergei Bubka, yeah.
Legend.
But you know what? Some of those sports were based on sort of military things, weren't they? Because if you wanted to, I don't know this, but if you're trying to get over a battlement in a...
I understand that it's functional, but it's not really a spectator sport, is it?
I think it's all right.
What, the
Pole
pole vault?
vault?
When you look, they're sort of charging in, and then they plant the pole, and then the curve of the pole, and then the body shapes they get into in order to get over the bar. Bubka, I was in Barcelona at the Olympic Games when I think he didn't actually win it, but I tell you what, it was very dramatic to watch. Fred is not having this.
I don't get it.
What was yours favourite?
So Spieth would be number one for sure. But tell you the other thing that really, really struck me. Federer and Nadal were written off, right? As tennis players.
I'm with you.
They're written off, Fred.
Yeah.
These are two of the greats of tough global competitive sport. People said they're never going to win again. The 4 Grand Slams this year, Federer's won 2, Nadal's won 2. You've talked a lot about mental strength and longevity, being able to sustain your appetite and your motivation over a long enough period of time to keep winning major competitions. Those two are the absolute embodiment of that.
No, they're not. You can have your Nadal and you can have your Federer, but I'm going to raise you. I'm going to raise you by Phil the Power Taylor.
Yes.
Blackpool, world match play. He goes into it, everyone's saying Phil the Power's finished. He's not got a chance now. We've got the Van Gerwens, we've got the Gary Andersons. He beats them all. Phil the Power Taylor on the greatest stage in sport, the Winter Gardens, Blackpool, against all the odds, takes everyone on. You could see the focus was back in his eye, his darts were landing perfectly again, and won the world match play. That is the highlight of my summer. Walk on, Van Gerwen, off your pop, lad.
I hear you.
Phil the Power Taylor.
I think Taylor's a phenomenon.
But you also talk about people finishing their careers on highs, and you talk about the pressure on Usain Bolt and Mo Farah couldn't quite do it. Hang on a minute, leave it to the athletes. The athletes, they know how to finish. Phil the Power Taylor, world match player. He writes his own story, and I would not back against him at the Ali Pali this winter for the William Hill Classic.
Yeah, the World Championships. But I'd love to take you. What would you dress up, Matthew, if you went? They all dress up.
Skeletor.
But you don't have to dress up as him, do you?
That's one thing I did do over the summer, by the way, is I went out and bought some decent gear. I get hammered.
Are you going to wear it?
It's like, it's incessant.
Are you going to put it on?
Okay, next Monday I will wear.
What did you wear?
Well,
You had that T-shirt on all last series.
He's got 7 of them.
I've got a few of them.
What did you buy?
So I bought some black trousers, but slim fitting. The stuff you were telling me I needed to buy. I bought 2 shirts, a blue jacket.
He does 6 speaking engagements a week. He's coining it, and he's bought 2 shirts from TK Maxx.
2 shirts.
Hey, Blimey heck, Matthew.
Paul Smith.
Matalan's got an hammer in.
So you bought a pair of skinny black jeans?
Even Giacomo's out of his budget.
And I bought some skinny blue
Give
jeans,
it away.
some Chelsea boots, a jacket.
To be fair, you bought Chelsea boots, skinny jeans. You look like a 5'1", but your legs are there.
This isn't them.
You should take him shopping.
Next Monday.
Yeah, go take him shopping. Yeah, horrific.
Actually, funny enough, I went to this shop, Paul Smith, on Bond Street. Quite expensive. I normally I normally have Blue Harbour, but guess who was in the shop?
David Beckham.
Paul Smith. Sir Paul Smith. And he actually dressed me. He chose the clothes.
What, for you?
Yeah, because he loves his job, so he goes in every weekend.
You are building this up next week. I want you coming.
I'm going to turn up with the clobber. If Robbie, be honest.
Was he teeing you up for a bit of modelling? Was he thinking, you know what, we'll get this lad on the posters, Catwalk, London Fashion Week, I can see it now. Never mind David Gandy. Hey, here is Matthew Syed. Hey. I'm on the catwalk, modelling Paul Smith.
So, what did you hate over the summer?
I'm with Fred on this. I thought that the McGregor Mayweather was an affront to what sport is all about. That wasn't sport. That was entertainment. That was like WWF. It was a way of swindling the public. I thought in my opinion, it was a crazy thing to buy into. We knew that Mayweather would win.
Do you know what?
It was a certainty.
not even defending it. If they would have build it like the WWE,
Exactly.
then fine, I'm in. It's
Right.
entertainment. This is what we're doing. It's an exploratory thing. We'll see how we go. Fine, I'll take that. But don't build it out like the fight of the year or the fight of the century.
Do you reckon you'd beat McGregor in a fight?
Shut up.
What?
Shut up.
You said you would earlier.
Oh, here we go. Maybe,
He did say that, didn't he?
You challenged Redgrave for a row. Challenge McGregor.
I'm sorry. That challenge to Steve Redgrave is still out there, and I've even stopped rowing.
You said
I'm not
McGregor.
challenging Conor McGregor at anything. I'm
You
not.
said
No, I
you'd beat
didn't,
him.
Robbie
You
Savage.
did.
You said you'd beat him in a boxing fight.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
You did.
I wouldn't.
You said it.
No, I didn't.
So there you go.
You intimated that you would.
Well, how did I intimate it?
Mate, look here, you've got giganticism. You're about 9
Giganticism.
What's the word?
Giantism.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Giganticism.
I was Stanley's word. I forgot the word. You'd be too big for him, too powerful.
You'd do him.
I wouldn't even touch him.
Mate, you said
battered me.
you'd beat him.
Oh, give it a
You
rest.
did. So
Turn it up.
Connor against Freddie.
Shut
Let's
up.
get it out
What
there.
was your
let's
worst
not.
moment of the
Let's
summer?
not. But if
Worst.
there's 50 million going begging, I mean, I'll go on a world tour and slag you off for a bit.
The worst moment, Matthew. To be fair, I didn't watch much sport in the summer. I'll be honest with you. I watched the fight. I seen the World Athletics Championships because I was on holiday with my kids and family. You know, so I didn't really watch much sport, believe it or not.
Just tell us about the break with your wife again.
It was amazing. Honestly, it was amazing. Do you know what? Like, it's funny because, you know, when she's getting ready at night.
Oh, here we go.
Seriously, you know, when you go back to when you're like 22, 23, and like I was holding hands with her walking in Mykonos. It was amazing, just like little things, and you know she doesn't drink, but she had a glass of wine, rosé,
Bet
at
she
lunchtime.
did. Bet she did with your intentions. Does she start fancying you after 5 glasses? When she gets her beer goggles on. Oh, he's all right, Robbie, isn't he, really?
Okay.
He might look a bit like Michael Heseltine, but I've had 2 bottles of rosé. It'll be all right. Come on, Tarzan.
Anyway, right, see, nice, right.
The best live sport.
5 Live and 5 Live Sports Extra.
Oh, Daniels! What an unbelievable strike from Charlie Daniels!
Live Premier League football
We will go where the goals go.
than anyone else.
Salah is there. Salah's cross, and it's headed in by Sturridge. Unmarked at the back post. Now it's 4-0.
More
That's what it's like on Radio 5 Live.
Live Premier League football than anyone else.
Topic number 2. Rob, this is yours. The best and the worst sayings in sport, but mainly the worst.
Yeah, and moving on to what irritates me
Right.
in my life at home, whatever, you know, and we all, I'm sure, got a lot of irritations. One of the phrases I don't like is "you give 110%." What is that?
Ridiculous.
What is that? You can only give 100%, can't you?
Yeah, mathematically impossible.
Impossible. So why, Matthew, from a journalistic point of view, why do people say that? What does that say about somebody saying, I'm going to get 110%?
Yeah.
What does it say?
But it's not just commentators who say it. Sports
Louis
people say it
Walsh.
too.
Louis Walsh. X Factor, 1,000,000%. You can't have it, Louis.
I mean, so
And
that's
he can't sing.
That's one. Another one is, he's not that type of player, which is absolute nonsense. Because basically, if you've got a mate who you might have played with or like, and you'll say, if he does a bad tackle, well, he's not that type of player.
Yeah.
If he's not his mate, you'll say, oh, get him off, shocking tackle.
They do that in cricket when they do sledging and they have a go at someone and turn someone a new one in the middle and then they get caught. They'll come out and say he's not that type of lad.
Yeah.
He is. He's just done it.
Yeah, exactly. And a 2-footed studs up challenge. You are that type of. Do you, as commentator, I mean, you've done this now as well, Fred. Do you sometimes think when you're about to offer an observation on a player, actually he's a mate, and therefore it is quite difficult to hammer him? Or do you say, you know what, I'm going to be completely honest, and if I have to hammer a friend of mine, I'll talk about it with them after?
Yeah, I've got a habit of sticking up for Mark Hughes quite a lot, and I think fairly.
But he's your hero, isn't he?
He's my hero, but I think fairly. Factually, I think I got it right, you know. But yeah, I think if you have a mate, you do give him a little bit more benefit of doubt, and I think if he's a mate, I think you should do that. But if you're honest and insightful and factually correct about that person, then they can't really argue, can they?
Yeah.
Another one, and I say this before you start a sentence, and you go, no disrespect, but
Yes.
you're just gonna hammer him.
Yeah.
So every time I hear somebody say it, and even I say it, no disrespect, but basically I'm going to tear into him.
It's like no offence. When someone says that to
No
you,
offence.
no offence,
Yep.
you know you're going to get offended.
Yep.
You know
No.
it's coming. But getting back to the question on your mates when you're commentating, I wouldn't say that when I commentated this time round the T20 there was too many mates playing because it's moved on a bit. But there are people you like.
Yeah.
But what I try and do is, I don't think in T20 my job is to analyse techniques and hammer people. It's more celebrating what people do. And if someone plays a shocking shot, I don't care who you are. I'll point it out.
Yeah.
But I don't get too... I just comment on things I can see. I don't start talking about people's state of mind because I don't know. I just concentrate on the basics.
What sayings you've heard and
Well, in a funny kind of a way, I sympathise with sports people. They play a big match or they've just run a tough race and a journalist will put a microphone in their face, there's a camera on them and they're asked, what positives are you going to take out of this?
Oh, yeah.
It's really difficult, I think, to give interesting answers when you're either euphoric or you're absolutely devastated because you've just lost. The other thing I really don't like is footballers in particular, they get slated, particularly on sort of Radio 4 panel comedy shows, because they're monosyllabic. They're not interesting enough. They don't have words that are sophisticated enough. And people have mocked Wayne Rooney because his answers aren't good, or Steven Gerrard. These guys are fantastic footballers. They didn't go to debating chambers and they didn't tour the House of Commons and all that kind of stuff. They do a brilliant job. And I think we're a bit too quick to knock, particularly working class young people who haven't been given media training. And that answer wasn't interesting enough. They're not a blinking question time.
so with that, moving on to what irritates you at home.
Just on one more sport, I think golfers are the worst.
For the press.
My word.
One.
Golfers. How boring are golfers?
Yeah.
They get on and then they ask a question. And how many times do they refer to the golf course was playing hard today? The golf course. They keep saying
what's
golf
that?
course. We know it's a golf course. We know what it is. Stop saying it. And then they go, the one on my second shot on the third. I've not seen it. I don't need. Get a grip, lad.
The golf course, maybe it's windy, the golf course, so maybe it was playing hard though.
Yes, flicking it around. You guys have been interviewed after matches in press conferences. Fred, you've probably done loads of press conferences as England captain, so you would be the main back page story that quotes you off at a conference of that kind. What are the most ridiculous questions you've been asked? The most annoying, irritating questions?
It's just the obvious ones, isn't it? Yeah. It's like, how do you feel? Well, how do you think I feel? Yeah. But I just lie. I just lie through my teeth. Positives, we'll take the positives out of it. And then, do you know the worst thing about these interviews is you sat there and what you want to say is completely different to what you do say. Yeah. You try and toe the line and you try and not land anybody in it. But I reckon they should just go for it. You know what? If you play bad and someone's had a shocker, out them. Yeah. Just talk about it.
Now, in our jobs, being pundits, and I'm sitting there sometimes and you have to be diplomatic. You have to think, these are your colleagues. But some of the questions I've been hearing recently, I've got to feel sorry for managers. There was one at the weekend. I think Eddie Howe, the Bournemouth manager, got asked it. He made a substitution. He brought on Jordan Ibe. And the question he got asked was, I think, Jordan Ibe's come on, created 2 goals. How do you impact on the game? Well, what's the manager supposed to do that? And I remember another one with Jose Mourinho. I think it was Conor McManaman, who's a fantastic, commentator. And, when I've never been in the situation of a journalist straight after the game interviewing a manager. For me, I panic. I've interviewed a couple of people. And it's the worst thing. I start sweating. It's horrible because you think...
You get sweat patches.
Yeah, not as bad as yours this morning, but it's a difficult thing, and I think it's a hard skill. Getting the tone right. And of course, I'd probably ask ridiculous questions, but straight after the game, I think it was Man United West Brom. Man United battered West Brom, but they didn't. It was one of those draws, 10 draws at home at Old Trafford. And I think Conor asked the question, both teams cancelled each other out. Well, they didn't. So that reaction off the manager... he is going to get a reaction, and I felt sorry for Jose. But then again, when I'm asked about Conor's question, I think, even though I probably would have asked it myself, I understand why, because he probably was in a situation where. Do you know what I mean? So,
have you ever asked a shocking question?
Oh Lord, I can't remember that.
Well,
Lord,
your top 20.
It's just.
Do you think we overestimate the post-match interview? Should we just drop it? Why do we have to have the post-match? Do you think it does add to the entertainment?
But if you look at TV figures and numbers, after the game finishes, it drops off.
Does it?
So people aren't that fussed.
And every now and again, you do get quite an interesting insight, don't you, into what somebody's thinking or feeling. I remember.
You asked the bad one.
Oh, I've asked bad questions. I tell you, the really difficult one as a journalist is when you're interviewing a very high-profile sports person who's already done 2 interviews before he's seeing you or she's seeing you. And then you've got to try and make it fresh, and you've got to try and make sure that you build some kind of a rapport. They don't want to be with you. They're a bit resentful about the time they're having to give. That's tough. But most of the time, I find sports people are typically they understand you're just doing your job. You know, I've interviewed Ronaldo and Federer, most of the Phelps and Michael Johnson, most of the top athletes. Robbie Savage. But one time I did fall out with the person I was interviewing. It was in a hotel in Soho, and it was David Miller, the cyclist, who had been banned for taking drugs, but had become a campaigner against drugs. And we got involved in this argument about a sort of technical issue. He thought that needles should be banned from sport. And I said, what if the needle is delivering a substance that you need medically, or that has nothing to do with performance enhancement and isn't banned? He said, no, you should still ban it. And I sort of disagreed with him, so I thought I was entitled to debate it. He got really angry. And he might be a great guy, I don't know, but it really degenerated. And there was a PR person sitting there with his head in his hands because it got really, really personal.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I asked Harrison Ford how old Wookiees lived to. Chewbacca.
What did he say?
He said he didn't know they lived forever in that land.
I reckon you could do a good Chewbacca impression.
I asked Will Smith if he'd have a hair transplant.
Really?
I asked Mark Wahlberg what his fruity internet choices were.
Really?
And if he deletes his history. I asked one
Did
fella.
they take it okay or not?
Will Smith didn't. Harrison Ford, amazing. We had a proper chat. We had a giggle about it. A fella called Gerald, who was in a movie, asked him if he likes fishing because I had no more questions. So, yeah.
It's not easy, is it, interviewing
That's
someone?
hard.
No.
Very, very hard.
Well, do you know what I find the hardest bit is if I'm interviewing someone, like for me, I interviewed Harrison Ford, and I'm a massive fan, and I was interested in what he had to say, and I was hanging on his every word. And you talk about a rapport, we built a bit of a rapport, and we had a bit of a laugh. Yeah. It was brilliant. Will Smith, he could have told me anything, I'm just not interested. Yeah. And then I ended up asking him if he'd have an hair transplant and things, and I got kicked out.
No way.
He started patting his head, saying, hey man, I can't go bald. I said, no, get touchy, Will, it's just a question. And I got booted out.
Harrison Ford, one of my favourite films, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Brilliant. Yeah.
The first one.
Yeah. With that rock that comes down that ramp when he's trying to get out of the thing at the
My favourite was when he was standing in front of the guy, and the guy got a sword out and was going, and he just...
Do you know that wasn't meant to be? That was meant to be a big fight scene within the film.
Oh, was it?
And he just did it off the cuff.
Yeah.
And he said, he wasn't feeling well. He just did it off the cuff.
Really?
I said, that'll work. We'll do
and
it.
that became a running gag, didn't it?
I didn't know.
What was the next one?
It's similar
Raiders Lost Ark 2.
It's similar to how you got this job.
Temple of Doom, wasn't it?
Temple of Doom. Yeah. Temple of Doom. It was.
What, he got this job because they couldn't find... Who was it supposed to be?
Well, they just thought, we'll try Rob. He stuck, didn't it?
And let's move on to irritating things, Freddie. Irritating things at home.
Oh, yeah, go on.
For me, my wife, even though I do fancy and love it, as I've suggested on this podcast, it's when, you're watching the telly, and then she'll turn the volume down, just so you can't quite hear it. And then I turn it back up, and then she'll say it's too loud, she turns it down, and then she'll be in the room, it'll be 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and she'll leave all the lights on and walk out. But she puts the lights on all day. And then they're like the halogen lights in the roof. What they called? Like,
halogen
spotlight,
lights.
yeah, but they're like the spotlight. They're quite expensive to leave on all day.
Yeah.
We got about 40 in one room, and she leaves them on all day.
How big's your... You got 40... Where'd you live? The Albert Hall? Or do you live at the Etihad? What do you mean you got 40 lights in a room?
Let me count them now. I'm just going to count them now.
40
There's
lights?
too many. I can't understand why they put so many in. But they're on different settings. So one button will turn A on.
Is it Lutron?
No. It's just like lights. So you press one button, 8 will come on, and you press another button, another 8 will come on. I think there's 32. There's 4 sets of 8.
Right.
In the kitchen. So you turn them on, but she turns them all on. You've got an all on or an all off, and you've got separate ones. So she comes in, turns it all on, and then she walk out, and it's bright sunshine outside. Cost me a fortune.
What would you say to her?
Turn the lights off.
Is that why you've
Let's
always
just say, oh, you're lucky. You go and spend X and Y, Z in the car, but I can't even have the hot water on.
Hey.
What do you mean?
You don't let her have the hot water on?
No, it comes on a timer. Why do you leave the hot water on all day?
Comes on a timer?
Yes.
What, so you're going to time your baths?
Yeah, we have it
You
on.
can have one at 6:30, love, because the time
We do.
If you don't finish by 7, you're not having one.
We turn it on 5:30 in the morning. It goes off at 7 because the kids then can have a shower before they go to school. It comes on 12 till 1 in the afternoon and then 5 till 9.
Is that why you've always got a tan? Because lights are always on? Is that why you're always sun-kissed?
So, do you
I used to
know-
get one off the fridge light.
But I mean, so she'll turn the water on all day and have the water on all day, have the lights on all
I
day.
get the water on all day.
Yes.
What? So at certain
It's a
points
timer.
Right. What? To have actual water on?
Hot water.
Oh, hot water.
Hot water.
Heat in the water.
Yeah, do you have it all day?
I couldn't tell you, Rob. To be honest.
You know the exact times. That's
Yeah.
What, do you?
Do you not?
idea.
I couldn't
Absolutely
tell you. I turn
no
my tap
idea.
on and water comes out.
So that irritates
Depending on
me.
which tap, the temperature changes.
Another thing, so in our house, she leaves clothes everywhere. So in our bedroom we've got clothes. On the landing we'll have clothes. In the downstairs, in one of our toilets we can't get in because it's full of clothes. Two of our toilets we can't get in because it's full of clothes.
So where'd you go to the toilet?
We've got a few more. You can't. It really winds me up. But the lights and the volume on the TV. This is a good topic for people listening out there.
Yep.
Hashtag Fred Sav Syed. What irritates you at home? What irritates you?
Well, I must admit, does Sarah not get fed up with you now that you're going bald like all your hair in the sink? Is she constantly
Not going
fishing your
bald.
hair out? See, you are going
I'm not
bald.
going
all the
bald.
time.
I'm receding on the left-hand side. Simple. I'm not going bald, though.
This is like you've thought about it.
What irritates you too?
Go on, Matthew. What gets
At
you?
home,
Can't wait for
I
this
know,
one.
the reason I'm hesitating here is because I know Robbie's going to mention
Wait for
something I
this.
said on the phone last night. No, I'm not going to mention that.
I'm gonna if you don't.
No, what do I get irritated? But I tell you, that is a massive issue. So we've got wardrobe space in our bedroom.
Right.
And I think it would be fair for me to have half, but I only have 30% of the wardrobe space. However,
30. So you've measured it. You've measured it.
yeah, well, you got sort of 10 sort of units. Well, I got
You got
three.
33.
I got 3. But what do you think?
What
What do you
you
think?
put them t-shirts in a wardrobe?
These are in these are in the chest of drawers, the t-shirt. But then her dresses end up in my size, so she's now she's co-opted half of my wardrobe space. I'm saying that's not fair. That's not equitable. And
Equitable?
she
What's
says,
You have some highbrow arguments. Hey, that is not equitable. How dare you put that dress there?
That's quite ridiculous. But she won't have any of it.
What, anything else?
No, that's it.
Anything else?
No.
Come on, there's something I don't know.
Yeah, there is,
I
there
don't
is.
know. Where's it, Rob? I don't know.
I'll let Matthew tell it.
So I mentioned to Rob last night, he's talking about these lights. So I mentioned, not for the podcast, I mentioned that we invested in air conditioning. Air conditioning for that,
Right.
because in the summer it's hot and you want to get a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
But powering the air conditioning is quite
Aircon in
expensive.
London.
What do you mean? Why
He's
not?
got aircon in his
It's
house.
hot. You have aircon, do you?
No.
Okay.
Aircon in London.
But you get in the summer, when you need
the
the
summer in
fans on
London.
you.
I understand the concept
yeah.
of summer.
Yeah.
But aircon.
Yeah. So but she does, and she leaves it on all day. So no one's in the house. The kids are at school. She's at work. I'm off somewhere else, and I come home and the aircon's been on. It's absolutely freezing. Don't need it on during.
You don't
the
need
day.
aircon in London.
Yeah, you do. Well, I mean,
Why don't you open a few windows
yeah, because sometimes in the summer it's still unbelievably hot.
in London?
Yeah.
Well, how hot's it been this year in
I'll
London?
tell you what, last night in the hotel, I stayed in the hotel next door to here, and it was boiling in there. I put the aircon on last night.
Aircon.
In his house.
Have you? Okay,
That's
tell
a
me.
luxury, that, isn't it? You're minted.
Fred, height of summer.
You're minted.
Height of summer.
Do you have staff? No. Do you have staff? Do you have someone to turn the aircon on and off for you?
I wish we did. Do you
Michael,
not,
turn the aircon down, please.
when it's really hot in the summer, do you have a fan on in your room?
No.
So you just go to
on
bed
the window.
Just open window.
and you sleep all right?
Yeah,
Even
right.
when it's like roastingly hot?
When is it roasting in this country?
We changed the duvet. We got a thick winter duvet.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, right,
And then we got
right.
a thin sheet for summer.
That's what we've got.
Yeah,
And a
we do.
plastic sheet when I was drinking. Yeah, we never got too hot.
It's quite, I've got to say, so aircon is quite a good idea, actually, if it is hot.
Rob, I've got to tell you, it's best investment. we ever
Really?
made.
Because you've got underfloor heating, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never got that in my house. I haven't got under
No,
4
you
heater.
got under 4 heater.
I would put that in my house because I think it's when I go to
is
Fred's,
good, yeah.
that is really good. But I've never thought about
I do
aircon.
miss a radiator though.
Yeah, it's funny,
I
isn't
like
it?
a
Yeah, I
radiator.
know what you mean.
Ah,
Yeah, just to put like something on a radiator.
put something on.
Right, do you know if you want to dry it up or something?
I don't know.
After you've been
just put
training.
it
Not
on.
a table.
yeah.
I'm going to buy a radiator to put something on.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Put something
I like
on?
a
You know, when
radiator.
you've been doing training or a towel, you know, you want to put it over the radiator,
Radiator.
to get rid of the.
What did it taste you at home?
Do you know what?
You did a TV show, didn't you, about this?
I did, yeah. Look, a few things irritate me. One thing is, in our house, towels. We must have 40 white towels in the house, all over the house. If I use them, well, I mean, I can get a right one. I've got them. I've got my sink in my bathroom, so every night, obviously, I go and brush my teeth, and there's 3 towels. They're rolled up perfectly. They're beautiful, they're soft. I don't know what they're made of cotton, but they look really nice. And I think I would love to wipe my mouth with that towel. But if I know for a fact, if I use that towel, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
My night is going to be ruined. So I'll wipe my face up back in my hand or take my pants off and wash them with my pants because I know it's just not worth it.
We don't have.
There'd be a scabby towel which has been used for the past month that I could use if I can find it.
We don't have white towels in our house. If I wipe myself and then they turn orange.
Is your wife very sort of regimented at
Yeah.
home? Everything's in its place.
Cleanest
It's sort of-
house in the
is
world.
it really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Well, did
cleanest
it take you a while
house.
to get used to that when you started living together?
Well, yeah, even if I leave my shoes out by
Yeah,
the door,
yeah,
it's a
my
problem.
wife's
I'm
the
going
same.
to put them on again tomorrow. It doesn't matter, but it does. I'd say the other thing is, as well, at night, I like early nights. I like my sleep. Every night I have a bath. I have a bath every night.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I'm allowed to, Robbie. I don't ration me. I don't ration me bath water. Having said that, I always get in second because she'll have a bath first.
Ah, you use the same water.
Yeah, why?
Do you?
I used to get it fourth when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
So
fair point,
it's
fair
fine. So
point.
I get the water, but then I'll stay downstairs and watch a bit of telly, and Rachel will say, and I'm going up for. Are you going for a bath, love? Yeah, go for a bath. I'll come up in a minute when you're done. So I'll be there for an hour watching something I don't want to watch on telly, and I'm looking at the clock. It's 10 o'clock now, and it's bedtime. So I say, have you had your bath? Yeah. I'll go upstairs. She's not had a bath.
What's you been doing?
I don't know, I was just pottering about. And then I'll go back down, 11 o'clock. I don't get my bath till 11:15. It's too late by
At
then.
night, yeah, it's too
Yeah.
late.
It saves you having a shower in the morning.
Okay, my topic this week. On Saturday, 3 football managers lost their job. In the Premier League, Frank de Boer was sacked as Crystal Palace manager after only 4 games. Gary Caldwell has gone. Michael Brown has gone. Justin Edinburgh. This, to me, is ridiculous. How on earth is a manager supposed to make their imprint on a club? How are they supposed to have a vision of the long-term development of the culture of a club, the youth players, when their entire focus is on the next game, the next 2 games, the next 3 games, when they have a guillotine hanging over their head? To me, I think this is one of the chronic short-termism in English football is one of the biggest problems for our national team, and it's why we haven't got the dynamism in our game that we need if we're ever going to be able to take on the world. But I'm interested also in the psychology of this. If a player knows that the manager is constantly on the brink, it just means that they just have to underperform for 1 or 2 games and they can get rid of the manager. It increases the power of the player. I also worry about the fact that every time a team starts losing, it's the manager who's in the firing line, which means that the players don't necessarily step up and take responsibility for the matches because it's them who are on the pitch. What's your take on this sort of overall debate of management? Do you think, Robbie, given that you played under a number of different managers, sometimes 2 or 3 games are enough to tell that the manager isn't good enough? Or do you think that this is frankly ridiculous?
The Boer one, Frank de Boer at Crystal Palace. So, in such a multi-million pound business, and staying in the Premier League, obviously for a lot of clubs, is just the goal, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I think Crystal Palace being an established Premier League side, is can they win a trophy? But I think staying in the Premier League for Palace is a must.
Yeah.
So they've done it recently where they've had Big Sam, they've had Tony Pulis, Alan Pardew, and they've stayed up.
Why did Big Sam leave?
I don't know. He kept them up, didn't he? And he done brilliantly well.
Yep.
I don't know, Fred. I really don't know. And then they want to change philosophy. For me, they've gone for De Boer, who was great at Ajax, went to Inter Milan. I think he lasted 14 matches.
Yep.
But surely The owners, who are obviously very intelligent, great businessmen, have done their due diligence. They've looked at it and thought, right, we're going to go for De Boer. He's obviously gone through the interview process. He's obviously explained to them, I don't know, but he's obviously said, listen, this is what I want to do. This is my philosophy. And they've employed him. So they've had the worst start in their history. They've lost, when he was in charge, lost their first 4 games, never scored a goal. Yet, there were signs against Burnley where they should have won the game, and then he's left his job. I think you have to look at the people who employed him. It's not his fault. He surely said, it might take me 10, 15, 20 games. Yeah. But because of the staying in the Premier League is so pivotal to clubs, it's ridiculous. How
they lost under their first match under Roy Hodgson. How can they possibly think that if they've done the due diligence, they've thought carefully about who is the right person to lead us to Premiership survival this season, they can make an assessment on 4 games when there's a lot of luck in football, a chance rebound here or there?
What a lot of people say is, he signed a contract, and what a lot of people will say, well, he'll get a payout.
I was going to say, how because you hear a lot of things, how does it work? So if you get sacked, you sign your contracts.
As a manager, I would probably say they've got a clause 6 months, a year. Yeah. So just say he signed, I don't know what he signed, just say, for instance, £2 million a year. He probably got £1 million. I don't know, I'm just putting numbers, probably got £1 million payoff. But
and those clubs that have a reputation for sacking managers quickly, any manager going in would have a clause in the contract saying, if you want to sack me before the term of the contract, you have to buy out the whole contract. So it's about the negotiation. But what it means is clubs are paying an absolute fortune in buyout and payout. But
so if you were a manager, let's take De Boer, for instance, then, and you hear stories, well, is he committed to the football club? He hasn't brought his family. Obviously, Jose Mourinho's family, I think, stayed in London. So there was question mark, well, he's living in a hotel, and...
Who can blame him?
Exactly. So if you're Frank De Boer, just say, I don't know if his family come over or not. He uproots his family, move over here. Yeah. London's obviously a nice place to live. And then after 4 games, you've got to then move schools. So... ridiculous.
Managers don't do that anymore. So I
don't blame
Darren Ferguson last week. He's now the manager at Doncaster. He would never move his kids from he's been sacked, 3 or 4 times?
But that's the
upheaval of the... But, I mean, for me... Go on, Fred.
But I don't understand this football management thing on a few levels. You get all of these managers, and I've watched football from a distance over a number of years, and you can't keep up with where some of the managers are going. They get sacked from one job, so you think, well, he's probably not very good. Next minute, it's like a merry-go-round of managers. Yeah. But also as well, which... Everyone goes on about the owners of clubs and chairmen and businessmen coming in wanting instant success, so they get rid of managers. What about the fans? The fans, they stand in the crowd shouting managers out,
dead right.
And they're the ones who put all the pressure on. Hang on a minute, you're supporting Crystal Palace.
Yep.
What are you expecting? They're not going to be top at league. You're going to be in a relegation battle.
Totally
Arsene Wenger, think what you want of him. The stick that he gets and manages from fans... Yeah. And then all of a sudden, they just detach themselves.
Yeah, that is so... I think that's so true, that the fans can't disentangle themselves from this culture in football because they're the first people on their feet saying, you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. And, you hear football fans talk, and you hear them a lot, don't you? You have conversations. Even in Ibiza, you listen to lads talk about football. And everyone thinks they know better.
Yeah.
You wouldn't say, you wouldn't watch a brain surgeon...
Yeah.
And then have comments on what he's doing. That's his field of expertise. A football manager, that's his field of expertise. You do not know better.
Yeah. On 606 the week on 606 at the weekend, we had a guy called Frank, a Liverpool fan, and he ranted on about Klopp, and it was amazing. It's had about 1.5 million views. But I've took the line of I've never been a manager. Right,
so started now, don't you?
Started now, under 12s.
Yeah.
Won yesterday 4-1. And I've come to the conclusion, because I've never managed, who am I to sit there and say he's got to go? I changed my tune on Arsene Wenger, I must admit, because he's had long enough now.
Yeah.
And okay, they got a draw yesterday, but I'm of the perception now that for me, his time's done. But good luck, the guy, he stayed there. But when you've got guys after 4 or 5 games saying Koeman out because he spent 140 million quid, but unrealistic goals, finishing top 4, top 6, how can they break into that top 6 Everton, yeah? So Ronald Koeman's gone to Everton, Fred, spent 140 million on 6 or 7 players, when other clubs are spending 90 million on one player to stay in the top 6 or to win the league. So he's got to have realistic expectations. Ronald Koeman, if they finish 7th, that's what Everton are. But because he's had a bad start, people saying, Koeman out. Nonsense. I've never been a manager. He watches those players every day. Yeah. But then for fans, okay, and I agree with Fred, these fans will say, ow, 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 because they won't change because they've lost 3 or 4 games.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone takes into account anything like enough the luck and randomness in football. I mean, about 50% of goals are through a lucky rebound or a chance ricochet in the box. It moves onto a player, not because it's been passed to him, but because it's happened fortunately. And if you start sacking people after 1 or 2 games, I mean, things could have been completely different to De Boer. Somebody missed, I can't remember what Scott Down was it, from like
Benteke missed a great chance at Liverpool when they were drawing.
Okay, but let me just quick one for you, Rob. You're a player. You've never been a manager, but you're a player listening to the pressure growing and compounding against a manager. How do you feel? Does it make you think, I've now got the power to get this person the sack? Have you ever deliberately underperformed in order to put additional pressure on a manager? I'm 100% sure that players sometimes do down tools.
Well, I think it depends as an individual. If you're a lot of things, do you like the guy? Is he picking you? Is he paying you more than another guy? All those things come into your head if you're in the team. So, for instance, if a manager I liked, and I was in the team, but I liked him and he looked after me and he was fair, yeah. But if a manager I didn't like, you
wouldn't try any less, would you?
When you cross the white line, no. But
Some players do, though.
I can't.
Well, look at Leicester City.
Well, that was a disgrace. When he went, then they started running around, didn't they? They covered 3 kilometres more each or something. But I just can't get rid around that, irrespective of the manager. You're a professional sportsman. You're out there to play. Never mind the manager. Yeah. But I do agree that players get away with murder. The accountability. The manager goes on afterwards. He's the one who gets sacked. But then you got all these players. Yeah. Hold your hands up, lads.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Is there any? Can you relate to any of this in a cricket perspective? I mean, England coaches, head coaches, don't lose their jobs anything like as fast.
There was only really Peter Moores who had a spell as England manager,
right? And
then he got let go, and then he came back, and then he got let go again under a cloud with Kevin Peterson, which I thought was harsh because both times he did the job, he laid the foundations for somebody else to then take over and do well. Yeah. But usually you're given a little bit of time, not like an Exeter. Oh, he's Torquay manager. Have you heard of this fella? Leroy Rosenoir. Have you heard of him, Rob? Have you heard of him? Have you heard of him? It's on the internet. Leroy Rosenoir. Who is it?
It's Leroy Rosenior.
That's not how it's spelled. Rose Noir. Rose Nior. What's he called?
Leroy Rosenoir.
Whoever he is, I've never heard of him.
Leroy Rosenior.
But he took over. No, I'm not even going to tell you. He was manager for 10 minutes, all right? 10 minutes.
How long did he get?
10 minutes he got.
He got 10 minutes?
600 seconds.
No.
What? The former West Ham striker's appointment had come at the exact same time the club was being bought by a local consortium.
Right. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
He got 600 seconds.
Hey,
Some shortest managerial reign in history of English football.
How long did Leroy Senior get?
He got 12 minutes, but Leroy Rosenoir...
I know Leroy, a lovely fella. His son played for Brighton at Bournemouth, right back in the Premier League. But going back to managers. So because I've never been with Fred, and you can talk about this, I think you'd love to be a coach.
I will one day.
One day.
Be a great coach.
Yeah. And I'm looking at it, Jurgen Klopp. People phoning up 606 saying, he's got to go. He's not a good manager. Hang on. The guy won back-to-back Bundesligas with Borussia Dortmund, head of Bayern Munich, which is unheard of. He's got to Champions League finals. Yeah. People say, well, Brendan Rodgers, after 70-odd games, had more points than him. But look at the way Liverpool are playing. Okay, defensively, they're conceding goals, and I can't understand why he's not rectified that situation. But for people saying he hasn't got a clue what he's doing, it's absolute nonsense.
He's obviously a good coach, but the flip side of saying that a coach is clueless when a team loses a few games is when they say they're a genius, when they win one or two. Or when Klopp arrived at Liverpool, there were banners flying saying, "In Jurgen we trust," as if he's some kind of a godlike figure. When Shearer became manager at Newcastle at the end of 2009, they were chanting as if it was the return of the Messiah. Let me say, it's the player. Look, coaches matter. Coaches matter. But we massively exaggerate their significance. It's the players who are on the pitch. It's the players who have to take the responsibility. We emasculate players. We kind of diminish their significance when we constantly go on about them as if the coach is a puppet master pulling the players on strings. Players are independent people with independent aspirations and independent responsibilities. They have to step up. I want to just talk briefly, Rob, about what this does to the culture of football. The amount of times I've gone to a first team at the top of the Premier League and spoke to the head coach or the manager, the focus is exclusively on the next game, the next 2 games, the next 3 games. What does that mean? The medical function is crucial. We need to keep the players fit, because if one of our top players isn't fit on a key match and we lose, I'm in trouble. There's no thought of long-term youth development. I'm going to mention Ferguson. I know I'm going to get criticised for this, but Ferguson, when he was hiring youth team players, he would meet the parents, Ted Beckham and Sandra, Ryan Giggs' mother, Nicky Butt. He went to their home in Gorton to meet, because he's thinking, how good are these guys going to be in 5 years, 10 years? What are they going to do to the dynastic nature of this football club? There's no, Ferguson isn't just focused on the next game. That's why, and we don't have any of that long-term focus in most Premier League football.
I don't think.
But Ferguson, though, when he was looking at his long-term future, he got rid of a few, didn't he? Yeah. From the class of 92. He kept he did a bit of weeding out, didn't he? He kept some of them. But he got rid of
still been horrible.
He got rid of a
some things
couple.
don't change in this series.
In his dynastic view, he thought that he'd get rid of a couple.
Some things don't change, do they? But I don't think they can, Matthew. Now, I think the established managers, and established when you say Ferguson, Wenger, but you have to look game to game now. Do
you think that's a negative, corrosive?
But what chance have you got? So if Freddie become a football manager, just say, all right, I become a football manager, yeah?
Yep.
And I lost, I give up my punditry career, right?
That would be a loss,
right?
For the nation.
Just said, let's be sensible now. So I've started managing under 12 side, right? I've got my first 2 badges, and I've loved it. And I found the pressure already. This is another podcast, a different side of a podcast. We'll do it probably next week about being a manager of parents, in sport. But if I was to become a manager, who would I manage? Just say, for instance, I'd have to start League 2, Conference, League 1 if I was lucky.
Yep.
Yeah? Just let's just say
Doncaster.
Yep. If I was managing Doncaster. Just say Darren Ferguson got the sack. But I'm just saying a generalisation. I was to go in, give up all this.
Would you move to Doncaster?
Would I move to Doncaster?
You'd love it there, wouldn't you, Doncaster? You'd fit in the street there, wouldn't you? Driving round in your Ferrari.
I haven't got a Ferrari.
Doncaster. Here he is, lads. All right, lads, spread out and kick the ball.
Right. So.
Can I have you number 2? I love it.
Oh, yeah. So I'm
not moving to Doncaster, though.
I would be there. If I give all this up, yeah, and then I lost my first 4 or 5 games in charge because the manager from the previous job got the sack because obviously those players went before they weren't doing it, and I went and lost my first 4 or 5 games. I could get sacked. Then my career as a manager is over.
Yeah.
What would your philosophy be as a manager?
So. Within the 12s, obviously the kids, I just want them to enjoy themselves.
No. If
in
it was
a
first team...
Well, it depends who you are. First and foremost, you have to look at the players you've got.
But surely it's a reflection on your beliefs and how you played the game.
I would like to play a high tempo, a high press, because that's what I was good at. I would try and have one key player who the team could carry. We had Christoph Dugarry at Birmingham, and I didn't mind. I was the type of player who would try and get the ball back for the better players. And that person, that star, which was Dugarry, I think you can let him get away with a bit more. So I'd try and have one star player in the side who could do a bit and get away with a bit more.
Who are you going to get at Doncaster, though? How are you going to get a star player at Doncaster?
Yeah, moving on from Doncaster.
No, that's where you are.
I'd be
that's where you're managing. That's where you're starting. You're at Doncaster. You're not at United. You've only been doing it for 2 minutes.
Well, I'm not.
You're at Doncaster. You've got to work your way up.
Okay, maybe we'll never star player at Doncaster then, but I'd be the type of manager who would put an arm around somebody. I think I'd like that. I think when I walked in on the training pitch, I like the players think he's the gaffer. He's a good fella, but there's a line there's a line, and don't cross that line. Because I've learned so much of Martin O'Neill, Alex Ferguson, Nigel Clough, Steve
Hughes.
Bruce, Mark Hughes. I've got some great experiences. But I'd be a high press, high tempo, in your face, aggressive team. Would I try and play out from the back? Probably not, because
You're Doncaster.
teams I played in didn't play that way. But it's cool to play out from the back, and do you know what I mean? But I'd be more of an old school.
And what would you be like? You've lost your first 3 games. Crowd are on your back. They're chanting "Savage out, Savage out, Savage out, Savage out" at Donny. It's kicking off left, right, and centre. You've got your team. They're useless. They're useless. They're having an absolute shock. And this star player you've got from Dagenham and Redbridge isn't doing anything.
Don't know.
What you doing? You go in that dressing room.
Yeah.
You're under pressure. You've lost your 3 games. The chairman's on your back. The crowd are on your back.
See?
Someone's keyed your Ferrari. Hey? What are you going to say to him? What are you going to do? How are you going to react?
This is why I'm not going to be a manager, because I'm panicking now, and I'm not even at Doncaster. I mean, but it's true. This is true.
Yeah.
This is what managers have to put up with. Yeah. This is what they have to put up with. The lower you go, the harder it is. Budget.
Yeah.
So I respect the lower league managers
me too.
massively.
And also as well, in some jobs it's not about. You're not getting a great wage either. You're not on your Mourinho's wages and your Pep Guardiola's.
And
you're on a Kit Kat and a Capri Sun.
You've got to probably be what's the youth team. You've got to go scouting, and you're not going scouting to the Bernabeu. You're going scouting to Barrow, to Bamber Bridge and Barrow when you play in the lower league. Yeah. Can you find that gem? You're out. Yeah. You don't get home till 10. You're up at 5 on the motor.
But if you was a manager at Doncaster. Yeah. Do you know the times you can have hot water at your house? would you make it smaller?
I wouldn't.
So hot water's on, 5 to 2 minutes past 7, and get them bloody loose lights off. We've lost the last 3 games. Charlie, only flush when you have a poo.
There you go. So, being a manager. Going back to it all, though. I was like, looks like I'm not going to be a manager. Right? Going back to it, Matthew. Do you blame for the short-termism in Premier League managers, financial, the owners? Where do you look at it?
Completely. It's the fans. It's the fans who are driving the owners. It's the fans who. It's the same kind of thing when we blame players for trying to dive or when they have. The fans will shout, a ball hits the player in the middle of their chest, handball! The partisanship comes from the fans. The short term.
Yeah, but I would shout that as a player on the pitch.
Yeah, but if you knew that the fans were going to say to you, your fans were going to say to you, you shouldn't be cheating, we're not going to cheer for you anymore because you're diving, players would stop doing it. The incentives in football are largely driven by the fans. Yeah. Not just the fans in the stadium, but the fans at home.
He's one for David Moyes was at Preston.
David who?
Moyes, is it Moyes? Chris Moyes' brother.
Was he with Leroy Rossenoir?
Yeah, and Gatlin. Right? But when he was at Preston, my mate Big Bob in the social club wrote a letter to the Lancashire Evening Post having a go at him, saying he's rubbish, he should go. Yeah. My mate Big Bob is at home, 7:30 at night, knock on the door. He's there.
No.
So I just want to come and have a chat about what you say. He went in the house, 2 hours, charming, had a chat about his vision for Preston North End with Big Bob.
No,
and
really?
he went away, Bob, thinking, you know what, he's right.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you know on the Crystal Palace situation,
story,
right? Really?
Yeah, wow. Big Bob.
So on the Crystal Palace situation,
Big Bob though.
Right? So the owners have decided that the ball's gone.
Yep.
Roy Hodgson's in charge. Yep. Right? Hasn't managed in the Premier League for 5.5 years. Mm-hmm. Shocking with England, the Euros. Mm-hmm. Absolutely shocking. Lost to Iceland. Yeah. Lost to Iceland, right? Mm-hmm. Then he gets a job in the Premier League. I like Roy, nice fella, being in his company.
Man.
They lost the first game. The next 3 games are something like
City away,
City,
United,
Chelsea,
away.
United. So after 8 games, they could be no points, no goals. Yeah. So he's had 4 games.
They're going to sack him.
What are they going to do?
Yeah.
So what are they going to do? Are they going to say, well, who can we go for now? Or do they have to now stick with Roy Hodgson to the end of the season?
Don't know.
You know, with football, it's so surreal and so unpredictable. It's difficult to know what's going to happen at Crystal Palace or anywhere else. Do you know, you were saying something a bit earlier about Freddie was brilliant, the way he was describing the dressing room.
Stop saying Freddie's brilliant all the time. He knows.
But the dressing room, when a manager's under pressure, the fans are coming. Did you ever see a manager crack under the pressure. Looking at him eyeball to eyeball in the dressing room, he's under pressure, he's struggling. The results are good, and you just saw that he couldn't cope anymore. Did you ever see that, Rob?
Did I ever see it? No, I've seen a manager grab a player around the scruff of the neck, put him against a wall. I've seen all that kind of thing.
Who? Not name names. Who was it? Come on.
Was it Husey?
No. No.
Was it you?
No.
Did you get beat up by Martin O'Neill?
No.
He's tiny Martin O'Neill pinned you against the wall.
But I've seen him crack under the pressure.
Go on, who was the manager who pinned the player against the wall? Not the end of the world. I mean, it's not an assault, is it?
Yeah. No, I don't want to say.
Remember Ferguson threw a tray of tea at Gordon Strachan.
Did he?
Ooh.
Did he?
Ooh, not a tray of tea. Don't mess with Sir Alex. He'll throw a cuppa at you. Oh, my
See,
word.
Matthew, this is
Did he
why...
leave the bag in? His tea bag's out.
But this is why...
Oh, Alex, no, semi-skim milk.
This is why I've gone down the line now of trying to stick up for managers, because we're talking about an ear now, the pressures, yeah? We've never been a manager.
Yeah.
And
Do you think you ever will be a manager?
Not now,
Joking
no.
aside.
Do you know, as I've said, I've started doing this under 12 side, and I've loved it. It's under 12 boys, my kids in it. It's unbelievable, and the buzz. So yesterday. So it's the first cup game, right? First cup game, and what I've done, I've gone early with the parents. So I've had a meeting. I've took the warm up, and then we've called the guys together, the parents, because being as we've had it before, being as a parent, watching the boys and seeing the manager doing what he's doing, I just stayed out the way. So as a manager yesterday, I've pulled the parents and said, listen, this is what we're going to do. Have a great season. Kids enjoy it. They're all going to get their minutes. And I laid the law down early. What I've said is, so in kids football, every kid has to have a certain amount of minutes out of the 60. So I think it's 20 minutes. And we've got weaker boys, we've got stronger boys. But I've said, listen, inevitably, I want the kids to have fun, have a good time, enjoy it. But I said, in the cup and in the big games, let's agree now as parents, I'm going to go on your decision. What do we want to do? Do we want to win or do we want the boys to have their minutes?
Yeah.
And the answer I got was all the parents said, we want to win. So in the last 10 minutes of the game, we've decided, or 15 minutes, if we're losing, we're going to play the strongest side. So nobody can complain now.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way to do. The kids want to win, and by winning, having fun, it's better.
Is that the philosophy you'd take if you got a Premier League club? Right, lads. So it's you. We either win or we can all get our minutes.
Yeah, but you have to. And the pressure on a football manager, I can't imagine it in the league.
But I can see the amount of passion you've got. I don't you think for it? I think you'd be a
brilliant.
very, very good manager. I would love to see you involved in coaching cricket.
I'd love to at some point.
Yeah.
I would, but not yet. Not yet, but yeah, definitely. But for me, as a coach, do you know if you get to a certain level and you got players who can play? For me, the coach's job, all it is making sure your players go out there feeling the best they possibly can and the most prepared.
Yeah.
It's not too much technical stuff. There might be bits and bobs here and there, but I think it's more the mental side which I'd focus on.
Yeah.
But getting back to football managers, I think a lot of them are more mercenary than players. Mm-hmm. Because football managers, they never take a job they want. Yeah. There's only 5 jobs that are any good. Unless you've got one of the top 5 team, what is the point? You're there either as a stepping stone or for cash. Yeah. You don't want to be in the Championship. You don't want to be in League 1 or 2. You want to be at United or somewhere. That's all you're after. And
but you've got to try and get there.
Well, that's the point.
You can't get that
they're not bothered. Yeah, but I know you're not. But that's just why it's a pointless job. Effectively, apart from 5 managers, all you are turd polishers. That's what you're doing. You're trying to make it shine. Well, let's be honest. Well, look at them. Well, this Crystal Palace thing. You're not going to do any good with them. What are you going to do with Crystal Palace? Let's be honest. Where are you going to take them? Well, Champions League?
You keep them in the Premier League.
Imagine being a manager and you take over the job, you drive in for the first day, and your sole purpose is not getting relegated. I don't get it.
What about Ranieri at Leicester?
Ranieri at Leicester, freakish, wasn't it?
One
off. You'll never see the likes of that again.
Clough,
Brian Clough at Nottingham Forest. Struggled at Leeds, didn't
he? Yeah, he did. Yeah, I mean, just going back to something you said, Rob, I interviewed Darren Ferguson last week at Doncaster. I mentioned it about 8 times. He wakes up every day 5:30. He's not got a big budget. He hasn't had many support staff. He knows that he could get sacked any day. And do you know what he said? He loves the job, Fred. He loves the idea of, you called polishing getting the most you can possibly get
Well, that's in its most basic terms.
So you know, trying to maximise what you get. Like Robbie with his young players, trying to develop them as human beings, trying to make sure they build their skills.
Yeah.
Trying to
Harry Redknapp's another one, isn't he?
But 17, he's just got sacked.
He's sacked Harry.
So this is why I can't get... So Birmingham...
So who are they going to get now? Who are they going to get?
So they had Gary Rowett, right? And Gary Rowett was doing brilliantly well. They were like in the playoffs, and then they got rid of him. They brought in Gianfranco Zola, and they were shocking. So they brought Harry in last season with 3 games to go. They were going down. He won 2. Yeah. He kept them up. So he gets the job. And then the transfer window, he's brought in 14 players and let 14 go. And now they're in the bottom 3 after 8 games. And they've got rid of him.
They've let 14 go and go brought 14.
Yeah, but what can Harry do in 8 games? Yeah, with the complete half a new squad, his experience. He kept them up last year. 8 games. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I've got an idea for a topic next week. I'd love to hear more about the youth coaching you're doing, what you've learned from doing it. But also, Fred, talk about your blueprint, your vision as a coach of English cricket.
That'd be good.
What it would be
great
to be the coach of the
topic.
England ping pong team. And
what I'm going to do, we'll write them out. We'll do it. We'll write it out, and I'll do my on a football if I was manager, and you do yours if you were ping pong.
Do you not think though, with Harry going, the stage is set for Robbie Savage to return to Birmingham? Imagine that. The Messiah's back.
Messiah.
They didn't like me.
All right.
Yeah, didn't like me.
Guys, look, brilliant first show. Loved it.
It was good, that, yeah.
Thank you very much. And thank you for listening. You can download the podcast for extended versions of all the topics we covered on this week's show at the 5 Live website and all the usual podcast places. The whole of the first series is also available to download. Please use the hashtag FredSavSide to get in touch through the week. If you could leave a review on iTunes and give us a rating, that would be great. We'll be back next week at the same time. But for now, from all of us, goodbye.
Flintoff, Savage and the Ping Pong Guy.
Thank you for downloading the Flintoff, Savage and the Ping Pong Guy podcast. If you like what you hear, then why not have a look at what else 5 Live podcasts have to offer at bbc.co.uk/5live.